The York University Science Competition for the Biophysics by Sarah and Joseph Atherley. The question answering for this project is, how can the mind control an artificial limb? The evolution. The human brain is such an evolutionary mastermind and controls every neurological movement that you desire, all with the matter of how different parts of the brain control aspects of the human corpse. A muscle movement takes 200 milliseconds to successfully execute. Accordingly, what will happen when one of these muscle connections is no longer connected to a functioning body limb, such as the hand or the foot? The peripheral nerves will still carry electric motor command signals generated from the brain. Although, if a limb has been amputated, the neurological pulsations will not conquer to have the ability to move the non-responding limb. Neuroplasticity. Prosthetics controlled by muscle impulses have been around since the 1960s, although it is these amputated nerves that are redirected to control a substitute healthy muscle in another part of the body. The brain's ability to fire and rewire itself using neuroplasticity after an amputation to redirect these neurological connections to the neural implants such as artificial limbs allows for the limb to move as these neutrons are being fired and allow for momentum to take place. If the brain can control every neurological connection in our body, how will it respond when one limb has been amputated? A common question. Body-powered prosthetic limbs are controlled by cables connecting them to elsewhere on the body. Accordingly, these muscles remaining in the residual limb that the person still can contract allows for neurotransmitters to be connected. Because muscles generate small electrical signals when they contract, electrodes are placed on the skin and can measure these sequenced movements. When these contractions are detected by the electrodes, they can carry out the task and control the limb as known as myoelectric. Natural limbs are pulled back and forth by muscles stimulated by our brains. When a prosthetic limb is set in place, the reconfiguration of the regular momentum of that specific limb must retain itself and force a new brain mapping course such as that can rewire itself to transmit signals to an artificial limb. Neuroplasticity provides us a brain that can adapt not only to change inflicted by damage, but also allows adaptation to any and all experiences and changes what we may encounter. Either one is born without a limb or possibly went to fight for our country and lost a limb. The ability for the brain to reconfigure its neurological connections over a period of time allows for people to be optimistic and be able to pick up a book again, hold their child, or run a marathon. It is essential that the artificial limb can connect and carry out the desired functions. There are various types of prosthetics that are always used throughout common day-to-day use, but some are more common than others. The artificial arm. In regards to the picture on the right, patients who have lost their limb or limbs can opt for an artificial limb that uses the remainder of the residual limb connected to implants and external coils. These designated movements throughout the movementation of the brain allows for the prosthetic hand to be able to function and move accordingly. It is the mind mapping system in the brain that allows the telemetry controllers to identify a signal from the transmitter, which is connected to the neurons inside the brain. Up to 98% of people with an amputation experience a phantom limb at one point or another after post-operation, or whatever situation that they were in that resulted in the primary amputation. And it may just be a phase that passes. Although, for the pain and agony that one may suffer can possibly not blow over and will cause painful phantom limb sensations. Primarily, the brain is responsible for creating these sensations, as it is activating the limb that was removed, sending a signal to the stump causing tremendous pain. The motor cortex, located in the frontal lobe of the brain, along with a bump called the percentile gyrus, has a primary role to generate neural impulses and control the execution of movement. Furthermore, when a limb is amputated, these neural connections cannot carry out the desired function, as a result, causing excruciating pain to the patient. Some key techniques that have been recently discovered to help ease the pain include the mirroring reflection technique and additionally mental stimulations that help the amygdala in the brain to not overreact and keep the emotions in check. For example, Oscar Pistorius in the early 2008 was known as the Blade Runner of South Africa. He was briefly ruled ineligible to compete in the 2008 Summer Olympics because of his transtibial prosthetic limb that was said to give him an unfair advantage over runners who had ankles. One researcher found that his actual limb prosthetics used 25% less energy than those of an able-bodied runner moving at the same speed. At the very end, he came in 14th in his first round. His personal best was 400 meters, which had given him 5th place in the very finals. But then again, at 2012 Summer Olympics in London, Pistorius became the first amputee runner to compete at an Olympic game. He ran 400 meters and by the 4x400 meter relay race finals. Not every single person who has lost a limb will have medical coverage to receive an artificial limb or a prosthesis, or be able to be subjected to testing new and improved prosthetic limbs that are being created at the present moment. But it is truly remarkable to make note of how science and the physics of today have enabled the human body to help change and reconstruct how our body moves and functions when a limb is no longer present. It is the ability of our minds and plasticity that they contain to be able to mold and adapt to new situations, which allows the implementations of new and improved modern day science to be able to take a person like Oscar Pistorius, provide him with another chance to change his life using these artificial limbs. For artificial limbs have been around for some time, but more recently we have discovered new and better theories that have proven how individuals can use neurotransmitters to transmit these signals and impulses from the brain to the stump of a residual limb in order for it to continue to move and process. I'd like now to take the opportunity to thank everybody at York University for listening to our presentation. Thank you for your valuable time and have a lovely day.